Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored Never Boring. Today I am painting the last hero from the Advanced Heroquest game. This is the Wizard and we are painting him last because the Always Bored Never Boring club members voted on the order I should do these painting guides, and poor old Magnus the Bright came in last place. As his name suggests, Magnus is a bright wizard and the Advanced Heroquest core game only includes bright wizard spells. But I like grey wizards, and if you paint a wizard in grey, it's easier to imagine he is from any college of magic. So for Magnus, unlike the flashy official paint scheme on the game box, I am going for something more muted and, well, grey. And to make life easy, I have started with a base coat of Ghoul Grey from Colourforge. Following my usual process, I'm going to start with the face. I'm using Cadian Flesh Tone, slightly thinned, and I'm applying 2 coats for solid smooth coverage. For shading, I'm going to use Seraphim Sepia. I'm hoping the yellowy tone will give a slightly different appearance to using Reikland Flesh Shade, an almost sickly jaundiced look. I'm then going back to Cadian Flesh Tone to do the highlights, just picking out the top of the nose and the raised cheekbones really. For the eyes, I thought I would try something a little different. I want to try to make it look like our wizard is channeling magical energy, so I'm lining the eyes in with electric blue from Army Painter. Then I'm getting some white scar and I'm going to do 2 things with it. First, I'm going to make a glaze with 3 parts white scar, 1 part electric blue and 1 part Lamian medium, and I'm going to fill the eye sockets with it. Then I'm going to draw almost all of it back out again using the corner of some kitchen paper. This will leave a sort of pale haze around the eyes and the tops of the cheeks. Then I'm going to use pure white scar to dot in pupils. And that's a pretty simple way to make it look like the eyes are glowing with unnatural energy. I'm happy with that, so let's move on. Next we want to do the hair and beard, and I'm going to start with a coat of Celestra Grey. This grey is very similar to the Ghoul Grey base coat, so 1 coat is going to be enough here. When that's dry, I'm going to use Nuln Oil as a wash. I want to bring out the details of the hair, but I don't want to darken it too much, so this isn't going to be a heavy wash. And then I'm switching to Ulthuan Grey, and we're going to use this for a dry brush. So I'm getting a small brush, loading it with paint, wiping most of the paint back off, and then lightly whipping the brush over the hair and beard, taking care not to hit the face. I'm not going to dry brush the moustache, I can pick the details out on that with a fine brush instead. Next I'm going to grab some Wolf Grey from Army Painter. You may be able to figure out the comparable paint from Citadel based on Army Painter's cunning naming here. And we're going to use this on all the textured cloth on the under tunic. This is just going to break up what will be a lot of grey with, well, grey, but a more bluish grey. And I'm going to shade that with a blue tone from Army Painter, just for recess shading and to emphasise that texturing on the cloth. Then I will do a very light dry brush over that with the Wolf Grey. I'll come back to do the trim later. I am then moving on to a whole lot of grey. I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, but I am starting with Mechanicus Standard Grey. I'm going to use this on our wizard's 80s style shoulder pads, and then I will also use it on his trousers. I'm thinning it as always, and I'm going to apply 2 coats. Then I'm switching to Dawnstone. This is for the cloak or overcoat, whatever you would like to call it. Dawnstone doesn't have great coverage, so I will do 2 coats of this, trying to be as neat and smooth as possible. Then we are switching to Administratum Grey, and we're just using this on the small bit of exposed sleeve on each arm. All these shades of grey, apparently there's 50 of them, aren't all that different, but my hope is that they will add just enough variation in tone across the miniature to prevent it from looking too flat and uninteresting. Our last grey is Eshin Grey. We are going to use this on the gloves and the boots. Eshin Grey doesn't cover all that well, so I've put 3 coats on here just to make sure I don't have any blotches or streaks. Now I'm going to wash all these different greys with Nuln Oil. This will provide all the shading. Unfortunately, it will also homogenise the greys, but don't worry because we are going to go back to do highlights. For the most part we are doing 1 coat highlights, so I'm going back to Mechanicus Standard Grey for the shoulders and the trousers. Administratum Grey for the sleeves, and then Eshin Grey on the boots and gloves. And the aim in all cases here is to keep the paint thin and to focus on the raised details. For the overcoat, we're going to do a little more work because it is the main part of the miniature. We're going to start by highlighting with the Dawnstone. Then when that's dry, we're going to start gradually adding in Celestra Grey, and with each new application, I'm going to focus more on the raised details. And you may be thinking, are you going to do some nice freehand patterns on that robe? No, I'm not. Next I'm switching to Mournfang Brown. This is just for the sheath and the knife handle. And while we're doing these small details, I'm going to switch to Pallid Witch Flesh, and I'm using this on the scroll on the belt and also the cord at the top of the staff. Next we want to tackle the metallics, and for the most part I'm using Balthazar Gold, which I think is a really good option for a wizard. And we're using this for most of the small metal details. His belt buckle, details on the knife, the necklace, the charm on the staff, the headband, and also the trim around the blue cloth and the tops of his boots. I'm hoping the pop of a shiny colour will help to break up all the greys a little more. The only other metal we have to do is the pommel and hilt of the knife. We're going to use some lead belcher, just being careful here to be neat. The last thing to do is the staff. I'm going to use Steel Legion Drab for this, just because I want it to be a lighter colour, but I don't want to go to something like Xandri Dust. We now have all of our colours down, but we still need to do some shading. I'm using Agrax Earthshade over all the golds and browns, and that little scroll and the cord on the staff. I want to knock down the colours and unify everything a little bit more. After that we can go back with all our colours and do any edge highlighting we want to do. I'm mainly going to focus on the edges of the necklace, knife and scroll to make sure those details don't get lost. The very last thing I need to do is get some Retributor armour and dot in any rings on the wizard's fingers. I'm also going to highlight any actual gold metal, so the headband, necklace and charm on the staff. I'm not using this on the trim of the clothing. And as a final touch, I brightened up the knife pommel with a touch of Stormhost Silver and the knife handle with some Steel Legion Drab. But I'm calling that done. Of course I still need to paint the base, but there is a separate video on my channel showing how I painted the bases for all of my Advanced Heroquest miniatures. So I'm not going to go through that again here. This is my least favourite paint job of the 4 I've done for Advanced Heroquest so far, but overall I'm happy with it. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you to all of the Always Bored Never Boring Club members for voting on this paint series. I will be posting another poll soon. And thank you everyone for taking some of your valuable time to listen to me today. If you liked the video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really liked the video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.